he wasn't sure, is it the day going to be a sunny day, a cloudy day? And we're shooting on the Wisconsin-Illinois border, so the weather conditions were as bad as Texas. It was all, wait 10 minutes and it's going to change.
Right, but it has to look like the same day every single day. Yeah.
Because you're shooting over a 3-month period or so.
Yeah, but didn't Harold once say that the actual length of time of that movie was about 30 years because that's how long it would take to learn to play the piano that good?
The real story that Harold told me in New Mexico, because in his heart, he was a Buddhist. He was a practicing Buddhist. He said, in Buddhism, it takes 10,000 years for a man to reach enlightenment. And so he said, in his mind, the story of Phil Connors takes 10,000 years.
Wow.
And so when we were shooting the movie, Harold decided he was going to decide what the day was going to be later. We ended up shooting the outdoor scenes in every weather condition. So we never had a day off. We were all on what you would call on the call sheet a will notify, which means the office calls you and says, get down, we're going to shoot again. So we shot the street scene. I shot the street scenes with Bill in sun, in rain, in gloom, in snow. And I always joke to myself that somewhere there's got to be 4 or 5 other copies of this movie in different weather conditions. Now,
right.
The trivia question for all the Groundhog Day lovers out there is only one scene in the movie that is not shot in gloom, which turned out to be Harold decided that the gloomy day would be the repeated day, and that when snow began falling near the end, when he's with Andy McDowell, that is when time starts again. So, what is the one scene that is not done in cloudy weather? That's the trivia question.
Do you know the answer?
He does, I'm sure.
Know the answer.
Can I take a guess?
Yes, sir.
Is it the carjack scene where he fixes the flat tire?
No, but you're right. It is. You're right. It is sunny there too. But that was shot at the same time.
Okay.
You're absolutely right. It is the scene with the groundhog, of stealing the groundhog and jumping in the truck.
Oh, in the truck. Don't drive angry. Don't drive angry.
Oh. We waited for the clouds to come, but we only had the groundhog to shoot for like a couple of hours, the real groundhog, so we had to shoot then.
Use your mirrors.
So that is the scene that's all kind of sunny.
Oh.
And it created that, the idea of shooting all the time created a ripple effect, in that a lot of times when actors are on location, you kind of get involved with the 7 foods that, stimulate the libido.
That's right.
You goof off a lot, but when you are always on call, everybody was ready to work at any given moment, any drop of the hat, and it kind of made it like the real of filmmaking, which was very exciting.
Harold and Bill Murray, geniuses. I think that's, by the way, that's up there with like The Wizard of Oz and Gone with the Wind for me. I think that movie will be big 1,000 years from now as just an incredible study of human nature.
And I do think it is, Bill Murray gives one of the great comedic performances of all time in that movie. And an interesting thing, people say, well, Stephen, Ned has such impact in the movie. I think that there's an interesting reason why Ned has impact in the movie. If you think about it, in the script, before Ned enters in the script, Bill's character, Phil Connors, is really the antagonist of the movie. He's the jerk. He's the bad guy. He's conceited, all this stuff, brusque and abrasive. But after he meets Ned, then suddenly Phil is the protagonist of the movie. And now we are rooting for him, and we become him after we meet Ned. So it's that juncture of meeting Ned that turns him from antagonist to protagonist.
And Ned, who at first is annoying, teaches him to have empathy and eventually compassion. You think?
Whole life, term life. Come on, he bought it all. Come on.
Yeah. Now that scene, I don't. That scene was not in the script, and I wrote that scene.
Really?
And what happened was I had finished shooting the movie, and I came back to Los Angeles, and I get a phone call from Trevor Albert, who was the producer, who says, like, Stephen, you know, we like Ned a lot, and we need another scene with Ned. Can you come back out to the Wisconsin-Illinois border? So I said, sure. So I kissed my wife goodbye again and headed back to the frozen north. And Harold Ramis says, well, what we want to do is there's a big party scene, and we want to do some concluding idea of what happens with Ned. Well, we were shooting that party, and no one had really written anything about what happens to Ned. We were going to lose the location at the end of the week, and I'm sitting in my trailer day after day after day after day. In fact, Bill joked and says, I guess you're here just to eat the snacks. And I said, yeah, I guess so. So in the trailer, in case worse came to worse, I wrote the scene about when I come in and go like, this is the greatest day of my life. You bought whole life and death and dismemberment, water damage, all the insurance stuff.
It's awesome.
All that. So I wrote that scene. We were going to lose the location in like 2 hours. I waited an entire week. Nothing. They never called me in to shoot. I come and give my little piece of paper to Harold Ramis. He read it. He said, yeah, this is okay. He handed it to Bill. Bill read it, said, okay, fine, let's shoot it. We had enough time for one take, one print, and that was what was in the film.
Wow. So some of the coolest things about the film were things that were discovered after it was shot and put in the film and made it. You know what I mean? That sunny day thing, the whole...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. In other words, this wasn't all scripted ahead of time. That as they were making the movie, it took on that life of, oh, here's what could happen.
Yeah, and definitely this is the crazy thing about that movie. When I first got the script of Groundhog Day, it was a fine movie. It was an okay movie. It wasn't a great movie. It was the kind of comedy that was very popular at the time, and especially a Bill Murray comedy where put Bill in a situation with no consequences and watch him run wild, and we'll all laugh and we'll have fun. You know, that's what it was. Once we started shooting, Harold Ramis is going to Danny Rubin, who is the screenwriter of the film. He said, what are we really doing here? What are we really making? What story are we telling? We are telling the story of the time of our life. We are telling the story of taking consequences for our lives and what we do with our time. Are we really going to tell that story or not? And Harold Ramis and Danny Rubin huddled together, and as we were shooting, they were rewriting the entire script. And they threw out, the first week, about one-third of the script, threw it away, and we started getting pages that were literally hot off the press. They had just rewritten it and printed it, and they handed us the pages, and I'm looking at this stuff, and I'm going like jaw-dropping. Oh, my gosh. Suddenly, like, we have the scenes of the boy falling from the tree. We have Bill in the piano lesson. We have Bill, the whole thing that we identify as Act 3. One of the original early versions of the script ended where Bill tries to commit suicide by jumping off of the tower and can't do it. And then he realizes, well, I won't be a jerk anymore. No. They added this whole third act of like, wait a minute. If I can't kill myself, then what am I going to do with my time? And that's when they added Bill rescuing the ladies with the flat tire and saving the mayor from choking on the stake and trying to save the old man who he can't save, the street person. All of those beautiful things, and that is what made Groundhog Day the classic it is today. It isn't just a goofy film. People use Groundhog Day in comparative religion classes, in philosophy classes, in self-help classes. I was called up to visit the team, the Oakland Raiders, because
they've been playing the same game for 10 years?
Yes, you would think that maybe they would pick Lawrence of Arabia or some other kind of film, but no. Groundhog Day is the film they show in training, saying that basically you have to make your future.
If you change the way you interact with something, you can change the outcome.
Right. Absolutely. It is about relationship, and it's interesting. This is one of my favorite Harold Ramis stories. Harold Ramis is a man of enormous courage. And that was my big takeaway from the movie. I have, as generous and gentle as his personality was, he was amazingly brave. We got near the end of shooting, and if you recall the movie, there is a long 6-page scene with Bill and Andy McDowell when he realizes the time is moving again. That we hear the Sonny and Cher on the record player, Bill's eyes open, the camera slowly starts moving back, and oh my gosh, Andy McDowell's hand comes across frame and turns off the radio. When I saw that in the movie theater with real people, people started screaming. Mm-hmm. They started applauding.
Yeah.
It was such a powerful visual, and then Bill jumps up, and there is a 6-page scene where he goes like, no, you don't understand. This is the first new day. This is something new. The amazing thing about that scene is this is Harold's story that he told me when we were in New Mexico.